Hey guys, let's get more news about Steelers, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. First call, Aaron Rodgers called a safe bet for Steelers, Russell Wilson still in the mix with Giants. Monday's first call passes along a pair of reports involving Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson. We look at two defensive linemen that may be on the Pittsburgh Steelers' radar in the NFL draft. And Megan McConnell put on another show as Duquesne stayed alive in the WNIT. There's such a thing? As many have discovered while gambling on the NCAA basketball tournament, there is really no such thing as a safe bet. But that's a phrase Mike Florio used this weekend at Pro Football Talk when he posted an update on the Aaron Rodgers situation. One source in the general vicinity of those who would be in a position to know said Sunday, "It's a safe bet that quarterback Aaron Rodgers eventually will sign with the Steelers," Florio posted Sunday night. As Florio himself acknowledged, when we are talking about the whims of Rodgers, safe bet isn't all that safe of a term. But his source seems pretty confident that Rodgers will eventually sign in Pittsburgh. Rodgers visited the Steelers' facility in Pittsburgh on Friday but left without a contract. Many are expecting some sort of announcement shortly before or during the Pat McAfee show at PPG Paints Arena on April 9. Not out of the picture. In an associated story, ProFootballTalk.com also published a report stating that Russell Wilson is still in the mix for the New York Giants. Per multiple sources, Wilson remains on the Giants' radar screen, even after the signing of Jameis Winston, Florio posted. They are as much/more looking for a veteran starter than the Browns, definitely more than the Vikings, the source said. Florio went on to say that Winston was signed to be the backup quarterback in New York last week and that Wilson should not be ruled out of contention to be the Giants' starter. Also, that person added that Rodgers seems unlikely to sign with the Giants. Finding out about Farmer. The Steelers are expected to spend at least one draft choice on a defensive lineman. Don't be surprised if it is in round 1. If they use another pick on day 2, Florida State's Josh Farmer is a possibility. During his pro day on Friday, Farmer told media members that he has a top 30 pre-draft visit scheduled with the Steelers. "I got 9 top 30 visits," Farmer said via the Knowles 247 YouTube channel. "I've talked to Cleveland. I talk to the Bills and Kansas City every day. I talked to Philly Thursday. I've got a visit with them. Houston, I gotta go to the Steelers. I've talked to mostly everybody who needs a defensive tackle." Farmer checks in at 6'3", 305 pounds. According to SteelersNow.com, he already met with the Steelers once at the 2025 Senior Bowl. In 2024, the redshirt junior was an honorable mention All-ACC player. He started all 12 games and posted 32 tackles, 8 for a loss with 4 sacks. ESPN.com rates him as the 9th best defensive tackle on the board and the 64th best player in the draft. According to Justin Milroe of the Draft Network, the Steelers have also shown interest in Rutgers defensive tackle Keontae Hamilton, not done yet. The Duquesne women's basketball team is still alive in the WNIT. The Dukes held off a late rally by Miami, Ohio, on Sunday afternoon, beating the Red Hawks in Oxford, 73-66. That's the second victory in the tournament for Dan Burt's team. With the win, the Dukes improved their record to 21-12 on the season. Miami finished at 19-12. Chartiers Valley product Megan McConnell led the way with 24 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 assists. Madden Monday, Mike Tomlin's rep is fading, that's why he wants Aaron Rodgers. On Friday, free agent quarterback Aaron Rodgers paid a visit to Pittsburgh. By Sunday night, ProFootballTalk.com was saying that Rodgers was a safe bet to become a Steeler. During this week's Madden Monday podcast, Mark Madden of 105.9 The X said that the Steelers would be making a short-sighted decision if the franchise signs him. "I think the Steelers are dumb enough, and certainly, Mike Tomlin is arrogant enough and has the hubris where he believes Aaron will come in here and do as he is told. He won't," Madden said. But I think the Steelers as an organization, and especially Tomlin, in his hubris, really believe that. The relationship between Rodgers and offensive coordinator Arthur Smith will be something to watch from day one if Rodgers signs. He's obviously going to come in and take over the offense, Madden said. You think the Steelers are going to run the Arthur Smith offense with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback? I think he'll walk all over everybody in the organization because that's just how he operates. Madden's biggest criticism is that if the club committed significant cash to Rodgers, it would just be about throwing good money after some potentially mediocre results. He's not going to make the team much better, Madden predicted. I think they're going to pay $30 million extra to Rodgers, as opposed to what they're paying Mason Rudolph. They're gonna pay all this money to Rodgers, and he's gonna win maybe 2 more games and not a playoff game. It's Madden's belief that the Steelers may bring Rodgers to Pittsburgh for other reasons besides football results. The reason they're bringing him in is because it's great optics, Madden explained. Tomlin is the catalyst behind this. He wants Rodgers badly by all accounts. He can't wait for that headline, Hall of Fame quarterback joins Hall of Fame coach in Pittsburgh. Tomlin's optics are struggling lately. His rep is fading a little bit, even among the national media. He sees this as a way to restore a little bit of luster. Also in the podcast, we discuss the latest up-and-down game for the Penguins, Sidney Crosby's shootout struggles, the start of the Pirates season, and the NCAA tournament. Blockbuster trade proposal sends Steelers physically gifted QB. With the Pittsburgh Steelers continuing to wait for a decision from veteran Aaron Rodgers, speculation has continued on whether the Steelers could consider a blockbuster move to land a quarterback in the 2025 NFL Draft. Alabama quarterback Jalen Milroe has become one of the more popular possible targets. That possibility arose again in an NFL mock draft from Pro Football Sports Network's Ben Rolfe on March 22. Rolfe proposed the Steelers trade their 2025 third and fourth round selections along with 2 2026 Day 2 picks to the Dallas Cowboys for number 44 overall this year. Then at number 44, Rolfe predicted the Steelers to grab Milroe. With no second-round pick, the Steelers would have to pay a high price to move up and select Milroe in this mock draft, wrote Rolfe. Milroe may be the most physically gifted quarterback in this class, but there is enough concern that he is unlikely to be a first-round pick. The raw talent and potential are huge, which will intrigue teams, but the bust potential is equally big. The Steelers don't have a 2025 second-round pick to target Milroe early on day 2 because they traded the selection to the Seattle Seahawks for wide receiver DK Metcalf. Why Steelers could target Alabama QB Jalen Milroe? It's rather clear that the Steelers' preferred quarterback choice is Rodgers. Rolfe argued that if the Steelers sign the 41-year-old signal caller, then it's highly unlikely the team gives up the draft capital necessary to move into the second round for Milroe. But even as they close in on Rodgers, the Steelers have shown interest in Milroe this spring. NFL Network's Tom Pelissero reported on March 18 head coach Mike Tomlin, general manager Omar Khan and quarterbacks coach Tom Arth had dinner with Milroe before his Alabama Pro Day. The Crimson Tide signal caller then delivered a message through the media a day after dinner with the Steelers brass. If the opportunity presents itself for me to be Tomlin's quarterback, I'll take full advantage of it, said Milroe. Pundits have speculated about Tomlin's desire to bring in a mobile quarterback for quite some time. The Steelers head coach again hyped mobility behind center during his postseason press conference on January 14. The X factor that quarterback mobility is in our game and is trending and has been trending, Tomlin told reporters. That is not a new discussion. Milroe completed 64.3% of his passes for an average of 8.9 yards per pass in 13 games last season. The Alabama quarterback also had 2,844 passing yards, 16 passing touchdowns and 11 interceptions. On the ground, Milroe posted 726 yards and 20 touchdowns as a senior. Jalen Milroe polar opposite QB as Aaron Rodgers. It's not out in left field to suggest Milroe as a target for the Steelers. Rolf hasn't been the only one to propose the possibility either. Steelers Now's Alan Saunders has been an advocate for Milroe potentially landing in Pittsburgh during the 2025 NFL Draft. But it's worth noting how different Milroe is from Rodgers. Presumably, the Steelers won't have both quarterbacks. They will either sign Rodgers to start him or target Milroe in the 2025 draft. Milroe could then compete with Mason Rudolph for the starting job this fall. It's hard to imagine two signal callers more different, though, than Milroe and Rodgers. The idea that the Steelers could land either speaks to the lack of direction the organization has at the league's most important position. Tomlin hyping quarterback mobility then targeting Rodgers also doesn't connect. Rodgers hasn't rushed for at least 200 yards in a season since 2018. Meanwhile, Milroe is an intriguing prospect in large part because of his legs. NFL.com's Lance Zierlein compared Milroe to former Steelers quarterback Kordell Stewart. Milroe is an explosive athlete who is very capable outside the pocket, but he lacks accuracy, touch and decision-making when he's inside the pocket, Zierlein wrote. A strong arm and elite speed will have teams intrigued, but if he doesn't make it as a starter, it's incumbent upon his team to find a way to get the ball in his hands with packaged plays. The Steelers didn't thrive at developing a package of plays for a backup quarterback in 2024. Once Justin Fields returned to the bench in Week 7, the team always threatened to use a Fields package. But the Steelers rarely did with any success. Furthermore, not only is Milroe very different from Rodgers, his skills do not match Rudolph. Presumably, the Steelers would have to feature two separate offensive playbooks, one for each quarterback, if they added Milroe to their roster with Rudolph. Still, the Steelers appear desperate enough to find their next franchise quarterback that Pittsburgh trading up for Milroe isn't off the table. Are you a fan? What do you think about Jalen Milroe's situation? Leave your opinion in the comments.